touch anything.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, data and AI architecture of the future. Hope you're ready for this one. It's going to be good. So, who am I? I think everybody here probably has a how they fell into data story. I am no exception. I actually started doing banking. That was my first job in my career. And then I joined a company called Juul. They make vapes. I believe they were in Austria for a very brief time. And yeah, had a lot of Excel sheets to work out how many vapes we were selling. And I wanted to automate that. So that's how I got into data engineering, and the rest is kind of history. So now I'm CEO of Orchestra. Orchestra is a single platform for building data and AI workflows. And today we're going to be talking about how we can actually start using AI to drive some cool value. So let's start with the problem. You guys have probably recognized this meme from It's Always Sunny. And this is us trying to explain our pipelines to finance, or some of the other team, right? The issue, of course, is that they don't really care about what we're doing. They don't really care how complicated it is. But as data people, I don't know if it's just like insecurity, but we really, really, really want people to know that we're really, really smart. And it's not great. Creates issues. Creates a lot of silos. So, you know, a lot of us are in this industry because we're trying to help business people do stuff better, right? Obviously, the dream is to automate stuff which is kind of hardcore operationally, right? If you're a big logistics company, there are probably 50 or so manual processes it takes for you to actually get a shipment from A to B. But at this stage, we're just kind of trying to help people make really basic decisions with basic info. And yet there are still silos. So even if you're in marketing, you just want to say, hey, data team, like, how are my campaigns doing? What pages are people looking at on the website? They've got to come to you, make a request. You've got to go away and do it. You go away and realize the GA4 data is really shitty. It takes you a couple of weeks. You come back, and then you have the same problem. So you have this big silo trap, which is now off the screen. But it'll come back in time. Cool. And yeah, like this is very technical infrastructure, right? And the stuff you're using to do this, like your orchestration plane, something like an Airflow or Prefect, whatever, like you cannot show this to the business. And the problem is the business needs to know. So like if the website's down or like, you know, the shipments aren't running and there is no data, that is someone's problem that's not in your team, right? That's going to be a data producer somewhere, someone that could even just be like in a mine, right? That hasn't like inputted their data into the app. And you're going to need to put them in touch with the person that actually is affected by the data that you're doing. And you can't do that at the moment because all you can show them is this. And this tells them nothing. So this is just kind of this illustration, right? Like, Jay needs to talk to John, but you're in the middle. Like, you are the bottleneck, and this is a problem. And yeah, it's painful. It's super painful. So this is kind of the state of data at the moment, and it's really interesting because now, like, agentic technology is at a stage where you can actually automate this stuff, right? Like, the tech is there, you can actually automate it. So we're already drowning. We're already struggling to connect the dots. And over 80% of people think it's our responsibility to actually implement generative AI across the org. So quite a tall order. And, you know, it really, really is a big opportunity. You know, like those examples I gave earlier of highly manual processes, this is, like, I think, the biggest thing that can disrupt BI in the next few years. Because instead of people spending all of this effort just to get dashboards that don't get used, we can actually now start using that data to automate really tedious tasks to actually make people a lot more efficient. Eva, I know you're already doing a lot of this, like maybe not with AI, but it just speaks to the value, right, of automating the really, really, really boring stuff. Like, it's very, very valuable. And it's complicated. right? To build an agentic flow, you need a lot of stuff. And this is why they want the data team to do it, because we are the ones that have the technical chops and the know-how to bring together the data architecture with all of these other services you need to deploy LLMs in production. How many people are doing LLMs in production at the moment? Show of hands? Cool, so like 20, 30%. Nice. And yeah, you know, those of you who have raised your hands, you probably commandeer quite technical teams, and you're probably using agents to solve problems which maybe don't need to be viewed by the business. So you're probably more like this, right? Your guys are probably writing agentic flows in code, and that's fine. But the opportunity really lies in helping less technical people to automate the really boring stuff. And for that, you need visibility. So we did a call with a chap that was looking after all of the public transport in Sweden yesterday. And they've got a really complicated flow for when a train is delayed, because they need to make sure that the cleaning team don't get there too early, because if the cleaning team get them too early, then they're waiting around and they have to pay a fine. And it's a low margin business. They make like 1% on a 10 billion contract. So, they really need to visualize these flows. You can't just say, write it all in code, guys, because these are people operating public transport at the end of the day. So having that visibility is really important. And yeah, this is kind of your existing processes, right? Like you're over here, like crazy person on the left with all your infra. And now Jane is going to go and get an AI agent tool. And she's going to crack on building those agents. And it's not going to talk to all of this cool infra that they don't understand. So what can we do? Standardize, get visibility, connect everything, and get a platform where you can collaborate. So standardizing storage, I think this is something we all probably feel a bit more comfortable with, right? It's like, it doesn't really matter what you use, but just pick something, right? It could be Snowflake, it could be S3, it could be a combination, it really doesn't matter. But having this sort of data mesh example where storage is distributed in 8 different places is really challenging. So, obviously Iceberg is quite attractive in large enterprises where you do have non-standard storage, because it's an opportunity to put it all in one place. This is why it's cool. The second thing is standardize your ELT frameworks. Again, it doesn't matter what you're using to move data. It doesn't matter if you're just going to write everything yourself, or you're going to use a managed service, or you're going to do streaming, or you do a combination. Just pick a pattern and try to stick with it. The same goes for your transformation framework. It really doesn't matter, but just have something that you do. That's really important. And then finally, the sort of different pieces you need to make this visible. So at the moment, everything you see that's kind of green and yellow is very technical task that engineers will do. To make sure that domain experts have visibility into all of this, they also need to maintain catalogs, they need to build out data quality frameworks, and they obviously need to do the end-to-end orchestration that we spoke about. And getting visibility into that stuff is the most important thing, because if I'm like a logistics manager, it's very easy for me to say, well, look, I know I need to get that data from there to there. You should be able to correlate the shipment to the person that's ordered it, get me a predicted arrival date, and then I'm going to activate it by telling the person who the shipment is for when the shipment's going to arrive, right? That logic is really simple. That is the overarching orchestration. So in this kind of structure, having the catalog where you can kind of see where all that data is that sort of visibility that's required. They don't need to know how the sausage gets made, right? It's they don't need to know how you're pulling data from the API, but they need to be able to see that flow of data, because then they can start to own stuff end to end. And if something happens with a shipment or whatever, they're not coming to you as the person leading the data team. They're going to the source of the problem. So that saves time. And yeah, this is what's next with AI. So it's not just about activating stuff in dashboards. There are going to be agentic workflows that are actually pulling this data, and then they're going to link to business tools. And if you, the data team, are in charge of that as well, it's going to be a nightmare, because there are a lot of business tools out there, right? You're not going to be wanting to take control over the connection strings for SharePoint and G Drive all across your massive enterprise multinational organization, that's going to be really painful. Like, you really don't want to be doing that yourself. So here's something we can do. So where we see the top part of the architecture tending is away from these point solutions like catalogs and orchestrators, and towards having single platforms for building, deploying, and monitoring data and AI workflows. So some classic characteristics of these would be that you have connectivity across the whole stack, so the ability to orchestrate things across different teams. You have a framework in there for monitoring data quality, both in transit and at rest. And then you also have a catalog. The cool thing about orchestration is that you have all of the metadata in one place anyway. And that's all you need to build the catalog, right? Like, anybody who's tried to implement a business catalog knows that it's actually quite a lot of code, because every time somebody deploys something new, you've got to write another snippet of code that keeps the catalog updated. That catalog should ideally be kept up to date automatically. And that's what we're seeing more modern platforms do. The other awesome thing is that, like, this type of platform should be really usable. So anybody can use it. You should be able to leverage it as code or without. But the key is, this is the thing that gives you visibility into what's happening below. And yeah, like, let's think about it, right? AI workflows are data workflows. They're just steps that a pipeline takes to work out what to do. So the platforms of the future are basically going to do both. And they have to, right? It's like, if you don't have your agents react to new data, then they will degrade over time. It's that classic problem, I think Joe mentioned earlier, of how LLMs will degrade if they're not hooked up to the latest data. You literally can't have AI without data. So it sounds almost obvious, but if you take a look at any of the agentic tooling out there, it's very different from the tooling that we use as data engineers. And we kind of think they should be one and the same. And yeah, if only there was a platform where you could do all of this, right? So, this is kind of what we're doing with Orchestra. You can build these data and AI workflows in UI or in code. You have really, really powerful visibility into everything that's happening across your org. And that enables collaboration. So you can show our UI to a domain expert. You can connect the people that are producing the data to the people consuming it. And all of this is good for us as data engineers, because it means we're not drowning in these ad hoc requests and always saying, this data's out of date. Who do I need to speak to? What's going on here? Where really, you're just this unnecessary point of triage. And yeah, super cool to have a data quality framework that keeps your catalog updated. Like, there are newer tools like Open Metadata and Data Hub that are just taking off, but my God, it is a lot of code to write. And just having it update automatically is probably something I'm really looking forward to seeing more this year. But yeah, this is basically how we think about data and AI architecture at Orchestra. My name's Hugo Liu. If this is really interesting, please come find me. And yeah, hope it was an interesting presentation.